Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up a mountain to pray. As he prayed, the aspect of his face was changed, and his clothing became brilliant as lightning. Suddenly there were two men there talking to him. They were Moses and Elijah appearing in glory. And they were speaking of his passing, which was to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions were heavy with sleep, but they kept awake and saw his glory, and the two men standing with him. As these were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it's wonderful for us to be here. So let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what he was saying. As he spoke, a cloud came and covered them with shadow. And when they went into the cloud, the disciples were afraid, and a voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son, the chosen one. Listen to him." And after the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. The disciples kept silence, and at that time told no one what they had seen. I don't think health and safety was as big an issue when I was at school as it is these days. I remember some of the things we used to do, particularly in science. We'd use asbestos and benzene and mercury. One of the teachers even taught us how to make gunpowder and let us make little firecrackers and rockets with it. But the experiment that really stands out in my mind isn't one that we got to do ourselves, although we were supposed to. But the reason why we didn't will become obvious. It was something that the teacher demonstrated for us. She was teaching us about oxidation and the effect of reacting oxygen with metals, and how you had to heat metals to get the reaction started at times. One of them was magnesium, and we'd all seen magnesium burn in air. It was always something that impressed us. Little bits of magnesium ribbon lit and glowing brilliant white. But this time she did the experiment just a little differently. She put some chemical in the bottom of a test tube, something called potassium permanganate. And if you heat it, it gives off oxygen. Then there was a little bit of rock wool to keep the two chemicals apart. And on top of that, there was a little bit of the metal that was being reacted. And we went through various metals. But one that made an impact was magnesium. The teacher heated the metal till it was hot, then heated the bottom of the test tube to get the oxygen to come out. And when the oxygen hit the hot metal, it burst into flame. Brilliant white light that lit up the whole of the classroom. Fantastic. We were very impressed. Next on the list was zinc. Now, we'd seen mercury lit and we knew that it burnt. We'd never seen zinc lit, and from what we knew of it, we didn't think it would. So we weren't expecting anything quite as spectacular. I think the teacher even said something like that to us. Nevertheless, the same procedure was followed. Permanganate in the bottom of the test tube, rock wool, and a little bit of zinc powder. Heat the metal till it's hot, heat the permanganate till it gives off oxygen, oxygen hits the hot metal, and it burst into green flame, almost as bright as the white of the magnesium. We were very impressed. This was wonderful. But things got even better. A ball of molten, burning zinc shot out of the test tube and flew across the lab to the windows. Now, in the windows were hanging dark green curtains that had been there since the school was built, desiccated by years of sunshine through dirty glass. The curtain caught fire, but not fazed, the teacher moved across the lab, grabbed the curtain in one hand and flicked it into the sink beneath while turning on the tap with the other. Almost as impressive as the green light that had set fire to the curtain in the first place. Unfortunately, the tap was dry, like the curtain. No water came out, and the fire grew. Teacher, still not fazed, not evacuating the class, not setting off fire alarms, walked to the front where her desk was, picked up the ancient pyramid-shaped fire extinguisher, banged it on the floor, and aimed it into the sink. Nothing. The fire extinguisher didn't work either. Now beginning to get a little flustered, the teacher quickly disappeared into the prep room that was just off our classroom. The teacher emerged with another fire extinguisher, but by this time, the fire, fully ablaze, had melted through the bottom of the plastic sink into the cupboard below, which we found out was locked and also empty, fortunately. As she approached with the fire extinguisher all ready, one of the other pupils who had decided that this was taking too long and was just too funny to cope with, had filled up a bucket full of water from a neighbouring tap and emptied it into the cupboard, extinguishing the fire, but also flooding the lab. We didn't get to do the experiment with zinc after that. Every time I was in that class after that, I just had to look at this plastic molten sink with a little paper label written on it in fading ink over the time I was there. Out of order. You're not kidding, it's out of order. Thinking back to that, I still smile. It was one of my favourite classes in school, and I quite enjoyed science in school. It's funny, isn't it, how certain things, you just need to remember them, and they have the ability to make you smile. They touch you. Well, I'm sure you've got moments like that. Maybe not quite as destructive and explosive, but I'm sure you've got moments in your life that you can look back on and recapture something of the feeling that was around. I mean, think of some of the funny things that have happened to you or you have witnessed. Just take a moment to think of them. And as you think of them, I bet you are smiling too. Our memories of these moments have the ability to affect us. I'd love to be back in that class and witness it all over again. But I can't do that. I couldn't recapture it, and it probably wouldn't be as funny if I did. It would be staged, and I would be much more aware of how dangerous it really was. I might be more worried about what was happening than enjoying the moment as I did then, as we all did then, apart from the teacher. You know, Peter tried to do something similar on that mountain when he witnessed Jesus transfigured and talking with Moses and Elijah. He wanted to preserve that moment. He wanted to stay there. What was it he said in his panic and alarm? Let's build 3 tents for Jesus and Moses and Elijah. But he wasn't able to stay there. He wasn't able to live in that rarefied atmosphere on top of the mountaintop. It's not what it was about. Jesus led him back down. It wasn't an escape from all that was going to happen. No, it was a moment that was intended to strengthen and encourage. Something that Peter and James and John and us are intended to treasure, to hold on to, and to draw on when we need to be reminded of who we are and who Jesus is and why we follow him. I'm sure we've all got moments like that too. Moments that we treasure, that we store up. Moments when we have experienced true joy or peacefulness and hope. Moments that we draw on now to help us to continue to live the good life that we are striving to lead.